So today we'll be continuing part 2 of corporate governance. And then if we have some time, we will do, let me see. If we have some time, we will do treasury management. So let's begin. Let's discuss the role of institutional investors in corporate governance. The role of institutional investors in corporate governance. Now, as the name suggests, when we talk about an institutional investor, this is an institution that invests. This is an institution that invests. So that's in simple terms, right? So a typical example is, how many of you know the company called Berkshire Hathaway, which is owned by Warren Buffett? Berkshire Hathaway. So Berkshire Hathaway invests into other institutions. So they have, a huge number of shares in Coca-Cola and some other companies. So institutional investors are organizations that specialize in investing, mainly in shares and bonds, right? Mainly in shares and bonds. There are several types of institutional investors within. Let's look at a few just to understand who they are and what the kind of work they do. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's also an approach, right? So for example, if a company is struggling, right, one of the things they could consider is to find an institutional investor to come and invest in their company, even though as we would go on, we'll see that it's not much, it's not very predominant in Ghana. You see a lot of institutional investors in advanced countries, but in Ghana, you don't see a lot. So there are several types of institutional investors. Number one is investment management companies and mutual funds. These are companies that raise funds from individual investors to create one or more large investment funds, which are then used to invest in shares and bonds of other companies. So a typical example of a mutual fund in Ghana is, I think Data Bank has a mutual fund, right? EcoBank has one, and there are some other investment management companies that I can't remember them, but those are the two that come to mind readily. So they invest in shares and bonds of other companies, and they also invest in government bonds as well. So these are investment management companies. What they do is that they get money from us, right? So you go to Data Bank and say, oh, you want to invest maybe your 5,000 Ghana cedis or 1,000 Ghana cedis. Okay, they get that money, then they put it into buying shares and bonds of other companies. So they look at companies that are doing well and they buy. And then they buy. They also have private equity firms. And in Ghana, maybe there are a few. Maybe there are a few, but private equity firms, these are organizations that specialize in investing in the equity of private companies with a view to improving the performance of these companies. And then when they do that, they sell their investments at a profit, So when you hear the word equity means a stake in a company, So these companies specialize in finding a stake in other companies right, and other private companies. And then what they do is that because they have this stake, they try to improve the performance of these companies in order to sell their investments at a profit sometime in the future. They also have pension funds. So pension funds, these are institutions that hold funds that will be used to provide pensions to individuals after their retirement, right? So pension funds usually would have stacks of cash, and the whole idea is people are saving for retirement, and this retirement so that they can live a good life during retirement. So pension funds may be sponsored by an employer. So it's possible for your employer to sponsor a pension fund for you, or maybe private pension schemes. The beauty about pension fund is that until the money is needed to pay a pension, it is invested to earn a return. So the money doesn't just sit there idle, it is invested. It's invested, and there are several ways to invest. You can invest into companies that are doing well, or buy some shares. Buy shares that are doing well in order to earn some form of return. So that's how pension funds work, right? That's how pension funds work. Then you also have insurance companies. Insurance companies like Enterprise Life, Enterprise Life and Co. The funds of insurance companies may come from insurance policy premiums, right? So there are situations where one of the things that insurance companies have a lot is money. So they have money sitting there because people are paying for their insurance, paying for these premiums. And these premiums, until an issue arises, right? Until an issue arises, you don't have to pay the policyholder anything. And so this money is usually invested. And once it's invested, it earns a return. So these are several types of institutional investors that you can think of. Okay, now let's talk about how it relates to the Ghana, right? I said initially that in Ghana, this whole idea and the influence on the impact of institutional investors is not that great. It's not that great, to be honest. As I've indicated here, the influence of institutional investors is not as great as in the UK or even the US or any of these advanced countries, And one of the things that hampers institutional investments is bad corporate governance. Bad corporate governance in a company could eventually damage the confidence. It could damage the confidence of investors and institutional investors and make them much less willing to invest in shares, And because institutional investors have a huge, when they are investing, it's huge. They bring, it's not like an individual. Maybe an individual, for you, if you are buying shares, maybe if you buy, you can buy, $10 million in shares. Institutional investors do that. Once there's bad corporate governance, it keeps away institutional investors. And what happens is that it will keep share prices down, right? Because the more institutional investors invest in these companies, the more it means that, the values of these companies go up. Like, if you're not investing because of bad corporate governance, the values go down, and it makes it difficult for companies to raise fresh capital in the financial markets. Yeah, so institutional investors have a huge influence when it comes to the financial markets. Okay, Caleb.
Okay, so you're talking about bad corporate governance and its deterrence on the institutional investors. What about if the institutional investor probably has a major stake and changes most or all the people, and that doesn't really make a difference?
Oh, so what you're saying is that what if what if they buy the company and they change everything, right?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. So what I'm talking about here is that, before someone, I'm talking about making the decision to buy, right? Making the decision to invest as an institutional investor, when you're trying to make the decision to invest, you look at corporate governance. But yeah, what you're saying is that if the institutional investor, decides to change the people, can it have an impact? One of the things you should know is that corporate governance is two things.